Captain Lisa Wright rubbed her tired eyes and leaned back in her command chair. The UEV Challenger had been exploring the outer edges of the solar system for 3 months now. Most days brought nothing but empty space and routine sensor readings. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Officer Alan Boyd, his voice cutting through the quiet hum of the bridge. Lisa straightened up. "Define strange, Boyd." "It's a transmission, ma'am. Not one of ours. Not even using frequencies we normally monitor. I only caught it because I was running that new spectrum analyzer." The bridge crew turned to look at their communications officer. First contact was the dream of every space explorer, but also their greatest fear. "Put it through," Lisa ordered, keeping her voice steady despite the rapid beating of her heart. The transmission filled the bridge speakers. It wasn't a language any of them recognized, more like musical tones combined with clicks and whistles. But underneath it was a pattern, a mathematical sequence that could only be artificial. "We're being hailed by aliens," whispered Laura Green, the science officer. "Actual aliens." Lisa nodded. "Record everything. And send a message back to Earth. Priority Alpha." Within 6 hours, the Challenger's discovery had reached every corner of Earth. Scientists worked frantically to decode the alien message, while military leaders assessed potential threats. It took 3 days before they had an answer. "It's a demand for surrender," General Sam Rogers told the emergency United Nations session. The room erupted in shouting. "They call themselves the Galactic Hegemony. According to their message, they control thousands of star systems and expect Earth to join as a client state," is the closest translation. President Maria Garcia stood up. "And if we refuse? They say resistance would be futile and result in our complete subjugation rather than partial autonomy." The room fell silent until a laugh broke through the tension. It came from Admiral John Miller, a veteran of Space Command with 30 years of service. "Something funny, Admiral?" asked the President. "With respect, Madam President, yes. These aliens, this hegemony, they're acting like bullies on a playground. All tough talk before the first punch is thrown. They have superior technology," someone protested. "Maybe," Miller agreed, "but they've never met humans before." On the Challenger, Captain Wright received the decoded message with her senior staff. When she finished reading it, she did something unexpected. She laughed. "Captain," her first officer, Kyle Peterson, questioned. "Sorry, Kyle, but listen to this," she read aloud. "Your primitive species will benefit from proper guidance under hegemony rule. Resistance will only delay your inevitable integration. They sound like every empire that thought they could just walk in and take whatever they wanted." The crew began to smile as she continued. "They want us to prepare for assessment and accept our place in the cosmic order. As if humans have ever accepted their place when someone else tried to define it. Back on Earth, the world's nations made an unprecedented decision. For the first time in human history, they would form a truly unified space fleet. Admiral Miller was appointed commander of Earth's defense forces. "We will not surrender," President Garcia announced to the world. "We will not bow to threats. We are humanity. We have survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own folly. We will face this challenge as we have faced all others, together, with courage, and if I may be frank, with a healthy dose of stubborn defiance." As the first hegemony ships appeared at the edge of the solar system, humanity prepared, but not with fear or panic. Instead, Earth's response was shaped by something the aliens couldn't have predicted: the uniquely human ability to laugh in the face of danger. The galactic hegemony expected submission. They would receive mockery instead. The hegemony ship was massive. It gleamed like polished metal under Earth's sun as it descended through the atmosphere. Military jets escorted it to the designated landing zone outside Geneva, where world leaders waited. Ambassador Zorkalak stepped out onto Earth soil. He stood nearly 7 feet tall with blue-tinged skin and 4 arms. His elaborate uniform sparkled with what appeared to be precious metals and gemstones. Behind him came 6 guards with weapons attached to their armor. "I come as representative of the glorious hegemony," Zorkalak announced, his words translated by a device at his throat. "I bring terms for your world's peaceful integration into our empire." Nancy Adams stepped forward. As Earth's chief diplomat, she had been chosen to lead the negotiations. Her simple blue suit seemed plain next to the alien's ornate attire. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador," she said with a smile. "We're happy to talk, but there must be some misunderstanding about integration." Zorkalak's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "There is no misunderstanding. The hegemony has claimed this sector. Your species will benefit from our rule." Colonel Steve Peters, standing beside Nancy, coughed to hide a laugh. The alien glared at him. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere more comfortable," Nancy suggested. "Would you like some coffee? Or tea?" The aliens were shown to the United Nations building. Inside a large conference room, Zorkalak placed a crystal device on the table. It projected a holographic document in alien script with human translations beneath. "The Standard Subjugation Treaty," he explained. "Very generous terms. Your people keep local governance under hegemony oversight. You provide resources and troops. We provide protection and technology." Nancy glanced at the document, then pushed it aside. "That's interesting," she said. "But tell me about your world instead. What's it like where you come from?" Zorkalak stared at her. "You are not taking this seriously." Steve Peters leaned forward. "Oh, we're taking it seriously. We just don't agree that surrender is the only option." "It is not surrender," the alien insisted. "It is inevitable progression. Smaller civilizations join the hegemony or are destroyed. This has been the way for 10,000 cycles." Nancy smiled again. "Well, humans tend to create new ways of doing things. It's kind of our specialty." The meeting continued for hours. The hegemony representatives grew increasingly frustrated as the humans deflected demands with questions, jokes, and offers of food. By evening, Zorkalak was visibly agitated. "You will sign the treaty," he demanded. "We'll need time to consider," Nancy replied calmly. "Our government structures require consensus." "You have 3 Earth days," Zorkalak snapped before storming out with his guards. Once the aliens left, President Garcia entered the room. "How did it go?" "They're confused," Nancy reported. "They expected us to either immediately surrender or make desperate military threats. Our casual response doesn't fit their experience." "Good," said the president. "Admiral Miller, your assessment." Admiral Miller had been silently observing from the back of the room. "Their technology is advanced, but their thinking is rigid. They have a playbook they've used on thousands of worlds, and they don't know what to do when someone doesn't follow it." "Can we fight them if needed?" Steve asked. "We're preparing," Miller answered. "But our best weapon might be this." He tapped his temple. "Not whatever guns they have." That night, as the hegemony ship orbited Earth, Zorkalak sent a message to his superiors. "The humans are behaving irrationally," he reported. "They smile when threatened. They ask personal questions during formal negotiations. They offered me a sweet beverage called hot chocolate when I demanded their mineral resources." His superior's response was immediate. "They attempt to confuse you with cultural distractions. Increase pressure. Show military might. All species surrender when they see the true power of the hegemony." Zorkalak looked down at the blue planet below. Something told him these humans wouldn't follow that pattern. For the first time in his career as a conquest ambassador, he felt uncertain. On the second day of negotiations, Zorkalak decided to change tactics. He arranged for a demonstration of hegemony weapons technology in an empty field outside the city. 6 hegemony warships hovered in the sky, casting long shadows on the ground below. "Observe," the alien ambassador said, pressing a button on his wrist device. One of the ships fired a beam of intense blue light at a target set up 2 miles away. The metal structure not only disintegrated, but the ground beneath it turned to glass. The human officials watching maintained neutral expressions. "Impressive," said Kevin Scott, Earth's leading engineer who had been invited to observe. "What's the power source?" Zorkalak seemed pleased by the question. "Quantum fold energy. Your species is centuries from understanding such technology." Kevin nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe. Though we've been working on something similar, just approaching it differently." This was a slight exaggeration, but Kevin noticed how the alien's posture stiffened. Physicist Diane Rodriguez stepped closer to the impact site, scanning it with a handheld device. "Interesting energy signature. Very efficient, but I see the beam disperses in oxygen-rich atmospheres. A minor limitation," Zorkelak said quickly. "I suppose," Diane replied with a shrug. "Still, seems like a basic design flaw for ships meant to operate near habitable planets." Kevin walked around one of the smaller hegemony vessels that had landed for closer inspection. The aliens watched nervously as he examined their ship with surprising familiarity. "Your hull design is fascinating," he commented, "though I'm curious why you placed your engine cooling vents so close to your weapon systems. One lucky hit there could cause a cascade failure." Zorkelak's translator device seemed to struggle with his rapid response. "That is classified information. You should not be able to identify such systems." Kevin smiled. "Just an educated guess. Engineering principles tend to be universal." Back at the United Nations building, the humans gathered to discuss what they had learned. "Their technology is advanced," Diane explained to the assembled leaders. "But it's not magic. It relies on principles we've theorized about. They've just had longer to develop them." And Admiral Miller pressed. "And they've grown complacent," Kevin jumped in. "Their ships have design flaws that any Earth engineer would have addressed centuries ago. It's like they haven't faced a serious challenge in so long that they've stopped innovating." President Garcia leaned forward. "Can we use this?" "Maybe," Kevin said. "Their tech is elegant but not very adaptable. Ours is clunkier but more flexible. If we can combine our understanding with some of their principles, we start retrofitting our ships immediately," Admiral Miller decided. "I want hybrid technologies that their sensors won't recognize or predict." While the military prepared, Nancy Adams continued diplomatic talks with Zorkelak. She deliberately kept their conversations casual, offering Earth foods and asking about hegemony culture. The ambassador grew increasingly frustrated with what he saw as delaying tactics. "Your time is nearly expired," he warned on the morning of the third day. "The subjugation fleet has already entered your solar system. They will arrive within days." Nancy sipped her coffee calmly. "That seems rather hasty. We're still getting to know each other. This is not a social exchange." Zorkelak slammed all four hands on the table. "The hegemony has conquered species far more advanced than yours. Your primitive vessels will be destroyed in moments." "Possibly," Nancy agreed, "though I wouldn't underestimate human ingenuity." That evening, Admiral Miller received word that 3 hegemony battleships had entered Earth orbit. Their commander demanded immediate surrender, or they would begin planetary bombardment in 24 hours. "It seems diplomacy has failed," President Garcia said grimly. "Or perhaps," Miller suggested, "it worked exactly as intended. While they've been talking, we've been preparing." He turned to his communications officer. "Signal Commander Martinez. Tell her Operation Mockingbird is a go." Commander Carol Martinez stood on the bridge of the UEV Defiant, one of Earth's 3 most advanced warships. Beside her were the UEV Courageous and UEV Intrepid. These ships were small compared to the massive hegemony vessels approaching Earth, but they had been working day and night to incorporate the insights gained from studying alien technology. "All ships report ready, Commander," said Lieutenant Sammy Baker from his communications station. Carol nodded. She felt the weight of humanity's first space battle resting on her shoulders. "Open a channel to all ships." When the connection was confirmed, she spoke clearly. "This is Commander Martinez. Today we face an enemy that believes we will either cower or follow their rules of engagement. We will do neither. Operation Mockingbird is now active. Remember your training and trust your instincts." "Martine's out." The three human ships moved out from behind the moon where they had been hiding. The hegemony battleships immediately detected them. Human vessels, came the alien transmission. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction. Carol smiled at her crew. Let's show them how humans resist. Execute pattern Delta. What happened next confused the hegemony commanders. Instead of forming a defensive position, as all species did when outmatched, the human ships accelerated directly toward the hegemony fleet. Then, at the last moment, they split apart in three different directions at speeds that strained their structural integrity. They're attempting suicide runs. A hegemony officer reported, unable to believe any trained military would use such tactics. But the human ships weren't on suicide runs. They were executing maneuvers developed by Earth's best pilots, pushing their ships to limits the hegemony wouldn't expect anyone to attempt. The UEV Defiant spun on its axis while maintaining forward momentum, firing retrofitted weapons that combined Earth missile technology with elements inspired by hegemony energy weapons. The shots weren't as powerful as alien weapons, but they came from unexpected angles and frequencies that hegemony shields weren't calibrated to stop. They're trying to target us with tractor beams, reported Pete Lee, Defiant's tactical officer. Just as we expected, Carol replied. Release the drones. Each human ship deployed dozens of small unmanned craft. The hegemony, used to fighting conventional battles, targeted these drones thinking they were weapons. This divided their attention while the human ships continued their unpredictable movements. On the hegemony command ship, confusion reigned. Why aren't they following standard combat protocols? Demanded the alien commander. Their formation makes no sense. The human ships weave through the hegemony formation, causing the larger, less maneuverable alien vessels to adjust their positions constantly. Several times, hegemony ships nearly fired on their own vessels as the humans passed between them. They're using our size against us, realized a hegemony officer. Their tactics are illogical. After 20 minutes of chaotic engagement, the hegemony had suffered damage to 2 ships, while the human vessels remained largely intact. The humans hadn't won through superior firepower, but through unpredictability. Human commander, the hegemony leader finally transmitted. Your resistance is noted. We will withdraw temporarily to reconsider terms of your surrender. Carol exchanged looks with her bridge crew before responding. We'll be here. Feel free to come back when you're ready for a real fight. As the hegemony ships retreated to a higher orbit, cheers erupted across all 3 human vessels. They hadn't defeated the alien fleet, but they had confused them thoroughly. Admiral Miller contacted Commander Martinez as soon as the skirmish ended. Report, Commander. Operation Mockingbird was successful, sir, Carol reported. The hegemony expected us to follow conventional tactics. When we didn't, they couldn't adapt. They're retreating for now, but they'll be back with a new approach. Good work, Miller said. Return to Earth. We need to prepare for the next phase. As the human ships headed home, Carol looked at the stars around them. For the first time in known history, someone had stood up to the galactic hegemony and not been immediately crushed. It wasn't a victory yet, but it was definitely not the defeat the aliens had expected. Lieutenant Paul Evans had been studying hegemony communications since first contact. While others focused on weapons and shields, Paul believed understanding the aliens themselves was just as important. He requested a meeting with Admiral Miller after making the discovery. They're obsessed with status and ritual, Paul explained, showing recordings of hegemony transmissions. Listen to how they always used full titles, never abbreviations, and they follow strict communication patterns, even in the middle of battle. Admiral Miller leaned forward with interest. How can we use this? Psychological warfare, Paul suggested. The hegemony is used to being feared and respected. What if we deliberately disrespect their protocols? It might throw them off balance even more than our unusual tactics did. A slow smile spread across Miller's face. I like it. Prepare a full briefing. 2 days later, The hegemony returned with a larger fleet. This time they sent a formal message demanding Earth's surrender, filled with elaborate titles and formal language. Earth's response shocked them. Instead of a properly formatted reply, humans sent back popular music, comedy clips, and casual messages that deliberately used incorrect titles for hegemony officials. "Hey there, Draki," Paul's message to Fleet Commander Drakvor began, using a nickname that would be considered deeply offensive in hegemony culture. "Loved your little light show the other day. Wanna see what we've been working on since then?" The aliens were outraged. In their society, such casual address to a superior officer would result in immediate punishment. That humans would speak this way to their conquerors was incomprehensible. Meanwhile, scientist Olivia Grant had been working on another approach. She had developed a virus that could infiltrate hegemony communication systems. Unlike regular computer viruses, this one didn't destroy data. Instead, it subtly altered messages between hegemony ships. "Is it working?" Admiral Miller asked as the hegemony fleet approached. Olivia nodded, watching data flow across her screen. Their command ship just ordered the left flank to perform dancing movements and hum pleasant tunes instead of maintain formation and prepare weapons. On the hegemony ships, confusion spread as officers received orders that made no sense. Some commanders suspected a system malfunction, while others feared their colleagues were experiencing mental breakdowns. Earth's fleet, now expanded to 8 ships, engaged the confused aliens. They continued their unpredictable movements while broadcasting a mixture of rock music and deliberately mistranslated messages. "This is most irregular," protested a hegemony captain when his counterpart ship failed to provide covering fire. "Sorry about that," came the response from a human ship. "Your buddy received orders to take a coffee break. Can we get you something while you're waiting? We make great cappuccinos." The psychological tactics worked better than anyone expected. Hegemony ships began breaking formation, with some commanders demanding clarification of orders and others attempting to establish their own authority. In hegemony culture, where rigid hierarchy determined everything, this breakdown of command structure was catastrophic. Ships that should have coordinated their attacks instead interfered with each other. After an hour of battle, 3 hegemony vessels had collided with each other, and 2 more had retreated from the field entirely. Not a single human ship had been destroyed, though several had taken damage. The hegemony commander finally ordered a full withdrawal. This time, they didn't even send a formal message explaining their retreat. "It worked," Paul said with amazement as they watched the alien ships depart. "They literally can't handle being mocked." Admiral Miller nodded thoughtfully. "We've bought ourselves some time, but they'll be back. And next time, they'll bring an even bigger force." "Let them," Olivia replied confidently. "The bigger their fleet, the more our virus can spread through their communications. And the more ships they bring, the more confused they'll be when none of their carefully planned tactics work." As Earth celebrated this second victory, the news of humanity's resistance began to spread. Somewhere across the galaxy, other species under hegemony rule heard whispers about the strange humans who laughed in the face of their oppressors. The hegemony did not take their defeats lightly. Word reached Earth through intercepted communications that Supreme General Drakthorn himself was coming to deal with the human problem. He commanded the Grand Fleet, consisting of over 200 warships. Nothing had ever stood against such force in the history of the hegemony. "We can't fight that many ships," Admiral Miller admitted during an emergency meeting with Earth's leaders. "Even with our unconventional tactics, they could simply overwhelm us with numbers." "Then we don't fight them," said Engineer Ben Howard, who had been quietly working on a special project. "We make them fight shadows." Ben explained his plan. He had developed technology that could create convincing holographic projections of ships, complete with false sensor readings. Combined with actual ships using stealth technology, they could make the hegemony believe Earth had a much larger fleet than it actually did. "It's a giant magic trick," President Garcia said, understanding immediately. "Exactly," Ben agreed. We can't match their real ships, so we'll give them hundreds of fake ones to waste their firepower on. The plan was approved immediately. Every available factory on Earth switched to producing small drone craft that could project holographic images and sensor ghosts. Meanwhile, Earth's actual fleet was fitted with new stealth systems that made them nearly invisible to hegemony scanners. When Supreme General Drac Thorn arrived at the edge of the solar system with his grand fleet, Earth was ready. Instead of the handful of primitive vessels he expected to crush, his sensors detected over 500 ships of various sizes appearing to defend the planet. "Impossible," Drac Thorn muttered, his forearms tightening on his command chair. Their civilization could not have built so many ships in such a short time. His advisors suggested caution, but the Supreme General had come to make an example of Earth. His reputation in the hegemony depended on a swift, decisive victory. He ordered the attack to begin. The battle that followed would be studied for generations. Hegemony ships fired powerful weapons at targets that simply vanished or appeared elsewhere. Their carefully planned formations broke apart as they chased phantom vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere. "They're firing at our decoys," reported Captain Greg Wilson from one of Earth's actual ships, hidden behind a small moon. "Good," Admiral Miller replied from his command center on Earth. "Keep shifting the holographic projections. Don't let them establish a pattern." The hegemony fleet fell into disarray. Some ships collided while attempting to target the same ghost vessels. Others exhausted their weapon energy firing at empty space, where sensor readings had falsely indicated human ships. Supreme General Drac Thorn became increasingly agitated as the battle progressed. Nothing was going according to plan. The humans weren't just failing to follow conventional warfare tactics. They seemed to be ignoring the basic laws of physics. "Sir," one of his officers reported, "we've expended 60% of our heavy weapons energy and have confirmed 0 enemy ships destroyed." "Impossible," Drac Thorn shouted, slamming his fists down. "Continue the attack. They must have real ships somewhere." They did, but the real human vessels struck only occasionally, firing quick hit-and-run attacks before disappearing again. They targeted hegemony ships that had already been confused or separated from the main fleet. After 6 hours of chaotic battle, Drac Thorn faced a humiliating reality. He had lost 28 ships to accidents, friendly fire, and the occasional actual human attack. Yet he couldn't confirm a single enemy vessel destroyed. Supreme General, his second-in-command, said quietly, "The fleet is requesting new orders. Our current strategy is not effective." Drac Thorn stared at the tactical display, where hundreds of human ships still appeared to be moving in patterns that defied all military logic. For the first time in his long career, he didn't know what to do. "Regroup the fleet," he finally ordered. "We will withdraw to the outer system and develop a new approach." As the mighty hegemony armada pulled back in disarray, cheers erupted across Earth. They had faced the greatest military force in the galaxy and sent it retreating in confusion. But Admiral Miller didn't join the celebrations. "This isn't over," he warned. "We've embarrassed them now. Their next move won't be about conquest. It will be about revenge." News of Supreme General Drac Thorn's failure spread quickly through the hegemony empire. For 10,000 years, the hegemony had conquered without serious resistance. Now, stories about humans who mocked their conquerors and defeated their greatest fleet through trickery traveled from world to world. On a distant planet called Neros, an enslaved species watched hegemony guards with new interest. On the industrial world of Zenith, factory workers began to whisper during shift changes. Even in the hegemony capital, nobles wondered privately if the empire was as invincible as they had always believed. Ambassador Julia Cooper noticed these changes during a risky diplomatic mission. Earth's leaders had decided to reach out to other species under hegemony rule. Julia's ship traveled in secret, using the stealth technology that had proven so effective in battle. "The hegemony controls through fear and ritual," Julia explained to Admiral Miller via secure communication. "When humans refused to fear them and ignored their rituals, we showed others it was possible to resist." Can we count on their support? Miller asked. Not yet. They're still afraid, but they're watching us closely. If we continue to stand against the hegemony, others will find courage. On the hegemony capital world, Supreme General Drakthorn faced the High Council. His failure to subdue Earth had damaged his reputation severely. These humans are not like other species, he argued. They refuse to follow the natural order of conflict. They use deception and mockery instead of honorable combat. Excuses, said one council member dismissively. Your failure encourages rebellion throughout the Empire. Reports of unrest come from 12 worlds already. Drakthorn's four fists clenched in anger. Give me more ships. I will destroy their planet entirely. No, declared the High Council leader. You will not fail us again. Governor Zaltor will take command. He has experience with stubborn species. As the hegemony leadership argued, Ambassador Julia Cooper made contact with resistance movements on 3 different worlds. Unlike previous hegemony conquests, she didn't promise military aid or advanced weapons. Instead, she shared something more powerful: ideas. Humans don't believe in fixed hierarchies, she told resistance leaders on the ocean world of Aqualis. We value creative problem-solving and questioning authority. The hegemony calls this chaos. We call it freedom. The Aqualis resistance leaders looked at each other with new understanding. For generations, they had tried to fight the hegemony using the same tactics the hegemony used against them. It had never worked. Show us, they said. Julia spent 3 days teaching them Earth's approach. By the time she left, the Aqualis resistance had already begun implementing new strategies that confused local hegemony commanders. Similar conversations happened across the Empire. Species that had been conquered for centuries began to resist in ways the hegemony couldn't predict or counter. They didn't attack military bases or assassinate officials as rebellions had always done before. Instead, they disrupted communication systems, ignored regulations, and treated hegemony representatives with casual disrespect rather than fear. This isn't natural, complained Governor Zaltor as reports flooded in from dozens of worlds. These species have been obedient for generations. Now they act like humans. On Earth, Admiral Miller received updates from Julia's diplomatic missions. It's working better than we hoped, he told President Garcia. The hegemony doesn't know how to handle multiple fronts of unconventional resistance. Their entire system is based on rigid control and predictable responses. President Garcia nodded thoughtfully. So what happens when the system breaks? I don't think anyone knows, Miller admitted. The hegemony has existed for 10,000 years. No one alive remembers a galaxy without them. As if to answer his question, an urgent message arrived from a monitoring station. The hegemony fleet was on the move again. But they weren't heading toward Earth. They were rushing to suppress rebellions on multiple worlds, spreading their forces thin across the galaxy. The empire that had seemed unbreakable just months ago was now showing its first real cracks, all because humans had responded to threats with laughter instead of fear. 6 months after Earth's first contact with the hegemony, the galaxy looked very different. 27 worlds had declared independence from the Empire. Hegemony fleets that once moved with perfect coordination now struggled to respond to multiple crises. For the first time in thousands of years, the mighty Empire was fighting for survival. Admiral Miller and diplomat Frank Taylor stood on the observation deck of Earth's new space station. Below them, ships from a dozen different alien species docked in peaceful exchange. Hard to believe it all started with Mockery, Frank said with a small smile. Miller nodded. The hegemony never understood what they were facing. They thought superior weapons guaranteed victory. They didn't account for human creativity. A message arrived from President Garcia. The Hegemony High Council had finally requested formal peace talks, not just with Earth but with all rebelling worlds. After months of fighting losing battles against unpredictable enemies, they were ready to negotiate. What do we ask for? Frank wondered aloud. Not what they expect, Miller replied. They think we want territory or technology. But that's how the hegemony thinks. We should offer something completely different. 2 weeks later, representatives from Earth and 32 formerly subjugated worlds met with the Hegemony High Council on a neutral space station. The council members arrived with ceremonial guards and elaborate formal dress, expecting tense negotiations over how much of their empire they could preserve. Instead, Frank Taylor opened the meeting with a surprising proposal. "We don't want to replace one empire with another," he explained. "We propose a new kind of interstellar alliance. Each world governs itself. All members have equal voice in matters affecting the galaxy. No species rules over another." The hegemony representatives looked confused. In their experience, victory meant conquest. The idea of winning a war only to suggest cooperation was foreign to them. "This is not how things are done," protested the council leader. "That's kind of our specialty," Frank replied with a smile. "Doing things differently." The negotiations lasted 3 days. Many hegemony worlds, seeing the empire's weakness, chose to join the new alliance. Others remained loyal to the old system, but agreed to peaceful relations. By the end, a new galactic order had begun to take shape. Earth didn't seek to rule this new alliance. Instead, humans served as advisors, teaching other species the value of questioning established ways and finding creative solutions. The alliance grew stronger as diverse perspectives brought new ideas and approaches to shared problems. 1 year after first contact, Captain Lisa Wright stood on the bridge of the UEV Explorer, Earth's newest and most advanced ship. Her crew included not just humans, but members of 7 different species, each bringing unique skills and viewpoints. Entering unexplored space, Captain reported her navigation officer, a blue-skinned Aqualis named Kilara. "Proceed at standard speed," Lisa ordered. "Let's see what's out there." The explorer pushed deeper into uncharted regions, beyond the old boundaries of the hegemony. After 2 weeks, they detected unusual energy readings from a distant star system. "It appears to be artificial, Captain," said Kilara, studying her instruments. "And powerful. More advanced than anything in our database. A new civilization." Lisa wondered, or something else. The bridge crew looked at each other with mixtures of excitement and concern. If this was another advanced species, possibly even more powerful than the hegemony had been, what would happen when they made contact? "Should we turn back and report this?" asked her first officer. Lisa thought for a moment, then shook her head. "No, we came here to explore. That's what we'll do." She smiled at her diverse crew. "Besides, if they turn out to be hostile, we have something the hegemony never had." "What's that, Captain?" asked a young crew member. "The ability to adapt," Lisa replied, "and a galaxy of allies who've learned not to follow the rules." She gazed at the view screen showing the distant star growing larger as they approached. Whatever waited for them there, humanity and their new friends would face it together, with open minds and a readiness to defy expectations. "Set course for the energy source," Lisa ordered. "Let's introduce ourselves to the neighborhood."